Welcome to another deep dive. And this one is going to make us think a little differently about something we all thought we knew. Gender bias in STEM hiring.
Oh, absolutely.
You sent over this fascinating study from PNAS from back in 2015.
2015, yeah.
And, well, let's just say it turns a lot of assumptions upside down.
It really does. For a long time, the common belief has been that women face a lot of bias in STEM fields, especially in academia.
Right. Tons of research, personal experiences.
Exactly.
So what is it about this study that makes it so unique and potentially groundbreaking?
So it's not just like a small survey or a collection of anecdotes or something. This was a large-scale randomized experiment.
Okay.
It involved 873 tenure-track faculty members.
Wow.
From 371 universities across the U.S.
That's huge.
Yeah, pretty comprehensive. And these faculty members came from a variety of STEM fields. We were talking engineering, economics, biology, psychology, the whole spectrum.
Got it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Data on the screen, numbers come alive. Male, female flows where the patterns thrive. Visual charts, public colors unify. Gender decoded, bringing truth to light. Small drum fill. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
This whole tenure track thing, some folks listening might not be familiar with how academia works.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Can you break that down quickly? Like, what does
See.
that even mean?
So basically, tenure track means you're on the path to becoming a permanent professor.
Okay.
It's like a trial period where you're teaching, doing research, and then if all goes well,
You get the job security.
boom, you get that coveted job security.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So these faculty were looking at candidates who are trained to snag those permanent gigs.
Exactly.
And they preferred women. But, like, by how much? Give me the numbers.
All right, buckle up, because a whole 67.3% of them chose a woman for that hypothetical tenure track role.
Whoa.
Right? That's not just like a slight edge. It's a major majority.
That's huge.
Yeah, and it really does make you rethink that whole idea of women being at a disadvantage in STEM hiring.
I'm already thinking about all the implications of this, but before we get too far ahead,
Mhm.
was there any area where this preference wasn't found? Like, any exceptions?
Well, there was one interesting one.
Okay.
The male economists in the study,
Huh?
they didn't show this preference for women candidates.
Really?
Yeah, but here's the kicker. The female economists did.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, what's going on in econ specifically?
Yeah, what is going on there? That has a whole other layer to this.
For sure.
So this preference for women, is this just some fluke of this one study?
That's what you'd think, right?
Yeah.
But get this.
What?
Real-world hiring data backs it up, too.
Seriously.
Yep. Studies have shown that while women might apply for those tenure-track positions less often,
Okay.
when they do apply, they're actually more likely to get hired.
Interesting.
So maybe it's not so much that there are fewer women in these roles overall.
But more that they're not even making it to the application stage as often.
Could be, yeah.
Wow.
And there's even a report from the National Research Council that found departments tend to invite more women for interviews than you'd expect if gender wasn't playing a role.
So it's like we have this whole narrative about women facing bias in STEM,
Right.
but this research is saying, hold on, there might be something totally different going on.
Absolutely. It's a big shift in how we think about this issue.
It's huge. So we've got this potential preference for women in STEM faculty hiring, but like, what's the deal with that? Is it some kind of like unconscious bias thing going on? Are universities just straight up trying to hire more women? What's the story?
It's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Like with most things in social science, there's not just one answer.
Okay.
But the research does give us some hints.
Like what?
Well, one idea is that universities are really pushing for more diversity among their faculty.
Makes sense. They've got to even things out after, what, decades of inequality?
Exactly. It's all about trying to create a more balanced representation.
Yeah, makes sense.
And a lot of institutions have these diversity initiatives going on.
Right.
So faculty might be making a conscious effort to hire more women to hit those targets.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a course correction making up for past wrongs.
Exact.
But that does kind of make you wonder about the fairness of it all, right?
Oh, totally.
Like, if a male candidate is just as qualified, does this preference put them at a disadvantage?
It's a tough one, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there are other theories floating around, too.
Okay, like what?
Some researchers think that women are just seen as better collaborators,
Yeah.
better mentors, qualities that are super valuable in academia.
I've heard that before, like that stereotype of women being more nurturing, more team-oriented.
Right.
But isn't that a bit of a generalization?
Well, yeah, you got to be careful with sweeping statements like that.
For sure.
But there is some research suggesting that, on average, women do tend to have different leadership and communication styles.
So in a field like academia, where teamwork is everything, those qualities might actually be seen as a real plus.
That's the thinking, yeah. Faculty members might be subconsciously leaning toward women candidates because they think they'll create a more, harmonious and supportive environment.
I can see the appeal of that, especially if you've been in a department where collaboration hasn't always been so smooth.
Right.
But it does make you wonder if maybe that focus on the so-called soft skills might overshadow women's actual scientific achievements.
That's a really valid point. We definitely don't want to reinforce stereotypes, even if it's coming from a good place.
Right.
It's all about recognizing women for their scientific brilliance, not just their perceived interpersonal skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got the diversity initiatives, the perception of women as better collaborators. Any other ideas about what's driving this preference?
Well, it could be something as simple as a shift in societal attitudes. As women have become more prominent in all sorts of fields, including STEM, there's a growing recognition of their talent and expertise, just in general.
So this preference could actually be a sign of progress, a belief that women are just as capable as men.
That's one way to look at it.
Okay.
It suggests we're moving towards a system that's more focused on merit, where gender isn't such a big deal in hiring decisions.
That's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a positive sign. But it's probably not just one thing, right?
Right.
It's got to be a mix of all these factors.
Oh, absolutely. Human behavior is messy. There's usually a bunch of different forces at play.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of complexity, remember that interesting tidbit about parental leave we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah. The study found that women who'd taken parental leave were actually viewed more favorably.
Wild, right?
Yeah, that was a surprise.
It really flips that whole assumption on its head that taking time off for family, especially in a high-pressure field like academia, would hurt your career.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost like those faculty were saying, hey, we get it, raising a family is hard work, and we respect that.
And we value it even.
Exactly. They might even see those parenting skills as something that could be a real asset in the workplace.
Okay, like what? Time management, multitasking, empathy. Those are all skills you hone when you're raising kids.
Oh, totally.
And they definitely come in handy no matter what job you have, especially one as demanding as being a professor.
I love that perspective. Like, it shows that maybe academia is becoming more understanding, more supportive of different paths people take in life.
It's a hopeful sign for sure.
It is. So we've dug into a lot of potential explanations for this hiring preference, and it seems like there's no single answer. It's complicated.
It's always complicated.
So what does all this mean for the future of women in STEM? Like, what's the big picture here?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to be exploring in our final segment.
Okay, cool.
We'll take a look at the bigger picture, what these findings might mean in the long run, and what it all means for creating a truly equitable landscape in STEM fields.
All right, so we've spent this whole deep dive unpacking the surprising research on how women are seen in STEM hiring.
Yeah.
We went from, like, busting the myth of the struggling woman scientist to finding out there might actually be a preference for women candidates.
It's pretty wild.
It is wild. So where do we go from here? What does this all mean for, like, the future of the field?
It's exciting, right?
Yeah.
This research just opens up so many possibilities.
Totally.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is like, we got to keep questioning our assumptions.
Right.
We can't just rely on anecdotes or gut feelings when we're talking about stuff this complex.
Yeah, we need data.
Exactly. We need the research, the evidence to show us the way.
Okay, so we've all heard those stories about women facing bias in STEM.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously those experiences are real and valid.
For sure.
But this study is saying there might be a lot more to the story.
It's more nuanced than that.
Right. It's not so black and white.
Yeah.
So, like, what's next? If we're serious about creating a truly level playing field in STEM, where do we even begin?
Well, for one thing, we got to keep talking about this. This study is just one piece of the puzzle. There's so much more to figure out.
Like, how do these trends play out in different settings?
Right.
Like in industry, government, different areas of STEM.
It's not just about hiring either, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about building environments where everyone can thrive.
Exactly.
No matter their gender.
Yeah. It's about mentorship, networking, having access to the resources you need.
Work-life balance.
All of that.
Yeah, all those things that build a supportive and inclusive culture.
It's about looking beyond just the hiring process and saying, okay, what happens once women are in these positions?
Yeah.
Are they getting the support they need?
Right.
Are they being given the same opportunities as their male colleagues?
Are they able to move up in their careers?
All of those things.
Yeah. We need systems that help everyone succeed.
Absolutely.
Not just at the entry level, but throughout their whole career.
Exactly.
This study also makes me think about, like, individual responsibility.
Oh, for sure.
It's not enough to just say, I'm not biased.
We all have to take a hard look at our own beliefs and actions. Be willing to challenge those biases wherever they pop up.
Absolutely. We're all shaped by our culture, you know?
Right.
We've all picked up these biases, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process, being self-aware, learning, growing.
And it's something we all have to be committed to.
Totally.
It sounds like making STEM truly equitable is a pretty massive undertaking.
Oh, it's a huge challenge.
It's not just policy changes or institutional reforms.
Mm-hmm.
It's about personal accountability, too.
Yep.
And being willing to constantly learn and, like, evolve our thinking.
That's the key, continuous learning and evolution.
Yeah.
This research has really shaken things up, challenged the way we think about things.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It forces us to, like, re-examine what we thought we knew, dig deeper, ask harder questions.
Who knows, maybe by embracing all this complexity, by having these tough conversations,
Yeah.
we can actually unlock a whole new wave of innovation in STEM.
Wouldn't that be great?
Because the more diverse perspectives we have, the more we can understand about the world, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about better science.
Yeah,
It's about a better world.
totally.
A world where everyone, no matter their gender, can use their talents and their passions to solve these huge challenges we're facing.
So to everyone listening out there,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're a student just starting out, a researcher who's been doing this for years, or just someone who's curious about the world,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to question things, challenge the status quo, keep pushing those boundaries.
Exactly.
The future of STEM depends on all of us working together to make it a more inclusive and equitable place.
So well said.
Yeah.
Keep those questions coming. Keep diving deep. Keep striving for that better future for STEM.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.